It is a pleasure to be joined by Mr. Christopher Carter, one of the experts on the Pittsburgh Steelers. Chris, obviously exciting times ahead, 2 days away from the NFL draft. NFL fans will be flooding to Detroit and watching from their home screens. But let's talk about the Steelers, man. Obviously, a bunch of different directions they could go. Had a big offseason bringing in both quarterbacks, Russell Wilson and Justin Fields, along with stealing Patrick Queen from a division rival. Just talk to me about what you think their needs are most going into the first round on Thursday night.
Well, their needs seem to pertain to the one group that they really didn't address at all in free agency. That's the offensive line. It's one of the more talked about groups that we've heard from. Mike Tomlin, Arthur Smith, their new offensive coordinator. There's been a lot of talk about this team wants to be able to be a road grading team. They want to bully teams. They want to control the line of scrimmage. And while, hey, that Steelers offensive line in the last 10 games of last season, they were the number 2 rushing offense in the NFL, only behind the Baltimore Ravens. So they did pretty well with Mason Cole and Dan Moore Jr. But now you're in a position where you have to upgrade this line if you want to be a dominant group all season long. And that's why I think offensive tackle and center are still prime positions the Steelers will look at, but don't think the Steelers will overdraft for a center. Center is a tricky position where when you compare it to the value that's seen across the NFL, a lot of people put a higher premium on the tackle position. And this is a great year for a tackle class. There's at least 6 players that I've evaluated who I think would meet the standard of being worthy of the 20th overall pick. All 6 won't be there. In fact, probably 5 of them won't be there. But the order of which they can go is definitely up for debate. Joe Alt's the clear number 1 tackle at Notre Dame. He's going top 7 at the lowest. He's not going to be touchable. Olu Fashanu out of Penn State. Some people think he could fall a little bit. I think he doesn't make it out of the top 10. But after that is where it gets tricky because it depends on what your flavor is. Do you prefer the run blocking prowess of Talise Fuaga out of Oregon State? Do you like the flexibility of Troy Fautanu out of Washington? Do you like the power and experience of J.C. Latham of Alabama? Or do you prefer the extremely high ceiling of Amarius Mims and don't care the fact that he only started 8 games in college? Any one of those 4 would be a home run pick for the Steelers at 20th overall. And that doesn't even count all the corners they could take or the receivers that would be available to them. They're in a very good position to get a position of need as well as a high value position in this year's NFL draft with the 20th overall pick.
Yeah, and I think kind of to that point, obviously, with everybody thinking, quarterbacks could go 1 through 4, maybe that pushes the talent down and has, there's a bunch of spots that the Steelers can go, kind of like you mentioned. If they don't address the offensive line, like you mentioned, the class is ridiculously stacked and deep. Maybe they think they could get one on day 2. What's another position you think they could attack with the 20th pick?
Let's say that they skip offensive line. Corner is going to be another premium position. They've looked really closely at this cornerback class. They brought in Nate Wiggins he was a combine interview. They went to his pro day and he was a top 30 visit. So he's someone they're looking hard at, but don't think that they would overlook a Terrion Arnold or a Cooper DeJean in this process either. I think any of those 3 are legitimate picks. I don't think Quinyon Mitchell will be there. I think he tested himself basically into the top 13 at the lowest in this draft class. But let's say the offensive tackle, there's been a run there, or they want corner is still a premium position in this year's class, and that's a place where you could get a really talented guy. Either again Wiggins, DeJean, or Arnold. I think would all be really great picks at 20th overall. But also wide receiver. Personally, I love Adonai Mitchell out of Texas. I know that everyone's going to talk about Xavier Worthy and his amazing 40-yard dash time, but if you look at relative athletic scores, which combine speed with explosion, with height, with all the different factors there, Adonai Mitchell is one of 2 players in this draft class that I've seen with a 9.99 relative athletic score. The other is Graham Barton, the center out of Duke, who also I think would be worthy of the 20th overall pick. But Adonai Mitchell, I think, has the potential to be a number 1 receiver, even over someone like George Pickens, which after trading away Deontay Johnson, the Steelers do need another receiver option. But this is also a very deep wide receiver class. You could get a number 2 wide receiver in the second round. Heck, there could be guys that could eventually become number 1 wide receivers in the second round. But in the first round, wide receiver, corner, center, offensive tackle, those are the 4 positions I see the Steelers picking.
Absolutely. And obviously the draft is more than just round 1. It's obviously, as over 3 days, 7 rounds. It's the time for teams to get better. Who are some maybe day 2 or day 3 guys you think the Steelers might be looking at that as they plan to, get ready for this season?
So, talk about those positions. Let's say they go offensive line early on. Zach Frazier's a center, I think would be great in the second round if they go that direction. But let's say that they want to go for some of those skill players we're talking about there. They love Malachi Corley, a receiver out of Western Kentucky. He's one of the guys I think that a lot of people would be really excited to see them pick there in the second round. I personally like Roman Wilson, a receiver out of Michigan, extremely shifty, explosive, fast. I think that he would get open. He would kind of be a great complement to George Pickens. That's part of the question here at wide receiver. Do they want another go up and get it type of wide receiver like George Pickens, or do they want to get another route runner who's kind of like Deontay Johnson but younger and maybe faster? Because Deontay Johnson, he had great football speed, but he didn't have pure blazing speed like track speed. And so there's a lot of guys in this draft class that fit that role as well. So wide receivers one position, corners another position. Look out for Mike Sainristil still out of Michigan. He's 5'9", but he would be a heck of a slot corner. He might even be the best slot corner not named Cooper DeJean in this draft class. So I'd be on the lookout for a guy like him in that position. Also, Ricky Pearsall, another wide receiver who'd be a slot option. But also, I mentioned those four positions. One other position I can see the Steelers jumping up early for is defensive line, because they need to find younger players to couple with Keanu Benton, who they drafted last year out of Wisconsin. There's guys like Chris Jenkins, Jalen Polk, or Braden Fisk, who all I think are second round guys that would be amazing fits there. But if they even waited farther, I think Mason Smith out of LSU would be an amazing third round pick at that position. And that's where you can start to get a little bit flexible with which direction that they go once you start considering third and fourth round options.
In your mind, do you think that the safety is kind of a need? Obviously, we know about Minka Fitzpatrick and everything, right? But do you think that's one area that they could address that may surprise some people?
It depends on what kind of safety they get, because they signed Deshaun Elliott, in free agency, and Deshaun Elliott is a good, strong safety. He's going to be the starter there, and you have DeMonte KZ still on the roster with, of course, All-Pro Minka Fitzpatrick. So their safety room's kind of stacked there, and they have Miles Killebrew, who they love for special teams. But don't overlook the idea of maybe getting a flexible safety, someone who can fill multiple roles. That's why some people list Cooper DeJean, the cornerback out of Iowa, as also as a safety. If he's drafted, he'll be a guy they'll love to throw in the slot, on the outside, and at safety, and move all around, a chess piece. We know Mike Tomlin loves versatile guys, but there's also guys later in the draft that I think will be great versatile guys. One player in particular who I know that they really like is Tyke Smith, the safety out of Georgia. Tyke Smith's smaller, he's quick, he's fast, and he hits hard, but he's more of a guy that's great in slot coverage. And the Steelers don't have a slot cornerback on their roster right now. So if you were to say Flexen's like, you know what? We may not have an official slot corner, but guess what? We're going to make that safety the slot corner here, because he can also help against the run. He can play other roles in the safety position, but we're going to primarily have him cover in the slot. I do think safety is open to being drafted by Omar Khan and Mike Tomlin, but I think with the signing of Deshaun Elliott, the need for safety has dropped quite a bit. And so now they're going to wait for probably the fourth or fifth round to address that position.
Yeah, no, that makes total sense. I guess for you, personally speaking, obviously you mentioned Adonai Mitchell, the receiver out of Texas. What is one of your favorite fits for the Steelers, whether it be first round or seventh?
I think a great first round fit would be Talise Fuaga, the offensive tackle out of Oregon State. I don't know if he'll be there. It's just so questionable. Let me tell you, Evan, I have been so sure about so many first round picks over the years. I told everyone they're trading up, they're getting Broderick Jones last year. I said that ahead of time. I said that even traded to the Patriots spot. You can go on back and look it up. I said it happened. Boom. I said they were going to draft Najee Harris. I didn't see Kenny Pickett coming because I thought that he'd get picked much earlier than he was by the Panthers or the Falcons or someone else like that. But I've seen Harris coming. I saw Devin Bush trade up coming. I don't have a clear read on who the pick is this year. I do know that they really want a corner or a tackle with that first round pick because that's the right value for that position, for those positions. But I know that they love Fuaga, but they also love Fautanu, but they also love Amarius Mims. There's so many guys that they appreciate. So they're kind of in a position where they don't have to trade up this year. They can wait and get a legitimate first round offensive tackle somewhere. But I think Talise Fuaga is an interesting fit for a few reasons. One, he is a pure run blocking right tackle. You put him there, he is going to be a bulldozer for you. And that's what the Steelers, I think, really want on this offensive line, is a bulldozing right tackle so that they can move Broderick Jones to left tackle where he was originally supposed to be. If they get a Fuaga, then the reason he might fall to the Steelers, if you're looking at options there, Fuaga's just under 6'6", so he doesn't have the official length that you want. And his one weakness is that he does get beat off the edge on occasion. And in those situations, that might make a team like, we're drafting for left tackles because we want to protect our blind sides, let's do it that way. If Fuaga falls to the Steelers at 20, they're sprinting to the podium and doing happy dances as they announce his name, on Thursday night. So if he's the guy that's there, I think that he would be an amazing fit for the Steelers and would make that offensive line from a decent group at the end of last year to potentially one of the best groups next year.
Absolutely. Obviously talking about this draft, you mentioned a lot about the offensive line. And you mentioned the defensive line a little bit, in terms of, just getting some younger pass rushers. You can never have enough pass rushers in the NFL, as we know. So are there any fits there, that the Steelers might take a look at?
I think interior pass rusher is where you look. I think that if they're doing that, because again, they need to find new guys to pair with Keanu Benton for the future. Cam Hayward's is up there in age, and Larry Ogunjobi, I don't think will be with the team too many more years. So if I'm looking at players like that, one's very surprise early pick could be a Byron Murphy if he falls down to 20. I don't think Byron Murphy will. I think he's a fantastic interior pass rusher. But if they waited even further, I think Braden Fisk in the second round would be a very interesting guy to get there, because you want a guy who doesn't just rush the passer but also stuffs the run. And I think if they could somehow come out of this draft with finding the future, 1-2 punch with Keanu Benton on the defensive line for years to come, they'd be extremely excited about that. Now, when it comes to edge rushers, I got to be honest, I haven't studied edge rushers past like the top 5 of this class because I just wanted to see who they were. But that's just not a position of need now. Not only do they have T.J. Watt and Alex Highsmith, but Nick Herbig was fantastic last year, and I could totally see that being the trio that they carry in the next season, and they could still bring back, the veteran that they added in free agency last year. So I don't think edge rushers at all in need. It would be a extreme luxury to pick that position with all the other needs on this current roster. But interior pass rushers, that's where the key could be in this situation.